and welcome back to IELTS with Will. This is the first video in a series looking at different idioms you can use with each topic in the IELTS speaking and writing examinations. So let's start with health today. Let's go. So first of all, before we begin, we should understand what idioms exactly are. Well, they're phrases where the meaning is different from what each word seems to say. So you cannot understand idioms just by looking at the words and translating them. You have to know the meaning of the whole thing. All the words put together may mean something completely different from the individual words. That's the idea. And of course, these idioms are very useful for your writing and particularly your speaking vocabulary mark. It will raise your vocabulary mark because idioms are used by native speakers and they're also difficult for students to use. Therefore, your mark is higher if you can use one or two of these. So here's one, for example, break the ice. So if we look at the words break and then ice, you think of what you see in this little picture here. You think you are literally breaking ice. Okay. But that's not what the idiomatic meaning is. It means something completely different. What does it mean? Well, as we said, the words literally mean smash frozen water. But the real meaning is do or say something to make people feel relaxed. In a social situation, usually, but not just in a social situation. For example, teachers often begin a new class with an activity, and that activity is called an ice breaking activity because the students in the class maybe they don't know each other and they don't know the teacher. So you do a little fun activity so that people start to relax in this situation. And that's called an icebreaker. And the teacher was breaking the ice. And so break the ice is an idiom that means doing or saying something to make people relax in a social situation. That's an idiom. So they don't mean literally what the words say. So break doesn't mean smash, ice doesn't mean frozen water. So idioms are particularly useful for speaking. We're talking about health. And so we need to think about which ones can we use to make ourselves sound natural and fluent. Also, we have to think about which idioms are just too informal for using in our essays and the writing. And if they are too informal, how can we change them into band 7 writing for essays? So often we know a good idiom and we can use it in speaking and use it well. We want to use it in writing, but maybe it's too informal. So, what do we say instead? That's what we'll look at also. When we're looking at health and vocabulary in general, what are we looking for? Well, in speaking, the examiner wants to hear natural, fluent, and expressive language. So often when you speak naturally, you don't always use formal language. You do use informal language. And often that involves words that only a native speaker tends to use correctly. And so if you can use some of this, it's going to help your mark. However, in writing, your vocabulary must be formal. And it's easy to see if it's formal because the words are on the paper in front of the marker. And so it's different from words you hear in that respect. So your vocabulary must be formal, it must be academic, and it must be specifically about the topic. So different words, but they have to be on the topic, formal and academic. So let's look at let's look at 5 idioms about health and see how they work when we look at speaking and what do we do in writing? Can we use them or do we have to reformulate? So we'll look at these words. I'll show you them here first and then I'll show you them individually. So we have under the weather, which means when you feel slightly ill, a clean bill of health, which means it's confirmed that you are in good health, as fit as a fiddle, That means an excellent health. To catch a bug means that you've got a small illness, and an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's more like a proverb than an idiom, but it means healthy habits prevent illness. So let's look at them individually. To feel under the weather, that means to feel slightly ill. It's like you have a horrible dark cloud raining on top of you, so you feel under the weather. Example, I didn't go to school yesterday because I was feeling under the weather. I was feeling ill. Next one, to be given or to get a clean bill of health. It means a confirmation of good health. So usually if someone gives you a clean bill of health, you are given it by your doctor or by the hospital, someone who knows what they're talking about. So your friend cannot tell you you have a clean bill of health here. They don't know what they're talking about. So it has to be from someone in the medical profession. Here's an example. After the checkup, I got a clean bill of health. So they went to the doctor, they gave them a checkup, and he said, "Yep, no problem, you're perfectly fine." All right, to be as fit as a fiddle. So that means to be in excellent health. And the example is my grandfather is 80, but he's still as fit as a fiddle. So you want to use it with the verb to be. She is, they are fit as a fiddle. I am fit as a fiddle. And that means I am in good health. So to catch a bug, and that means to catch a small or minor illness, for example, the flu. So I caught the flu, you could say. He's caught the flu and he will not be at work today. To catch a bug of any kind, to catch a bug in general means he's got some kind of minor illness today, like the flu. For example, I caught a bug last weekend and stayed in bed with the bug, I suppose, annoying you until it went away again. And an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's something that certainly when I was young, I would hear this from my grandmother, and it's one of these sayings, idiomatic sayings, that has been passed down from generation to generation. So an apple a day keeps the doctor away means if you have healthy habits, you won't have any need to go to the doctor because you will not be ill. So healthy habits prevent illness. For example, my mum always says an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So my mum always says, have healthy habits and you will never be ill, supposedly. And there you go. And it's basically because apples are healthy things to eat. So if you look at the speaking task 2, here's one example. Describe a time when you were ill. So it's a speaking task 2. So you have to describe one instance when you had some kind of illness. Here's part of a sample answer. Last winter, I caught a nasty bug that kept me in bed for 3 days. I felt completely under the weather and couldn't concentrate on anything. Luckily, I took care of myself, and after visiting the doctor, I was given a clean bill of health. So, this is three idioms in this sample. I caught a nasty bug, I caught the flu or some minor illness, I felt completely under the weather. I felt really ill, and I was given a clean bill of health. The doctor told me I'm fine. So that would be normal in a speaking test. And if you use them correctly, this would be good for your vocabulary mark because it's unusual to hear students that are able to use idioms correctly and certainly more than one correctly as well. So that would be good. However, if we look at writing task 2, the story may be a little different. So here's a writing task 2 question. Some people believe the government should provide free health care for everyone. If you say this, free health care ensures people can get a clean bill of health. Well, that's the idiom. A good one for speaking, but this is too informal for writing. Therefore, we have to reformulate into more formal written language. So, providing free healthcare enables individuals to access comprehensive medical evaluations and recover fully, reducing long term societal costs. So, they're completely different. And that's because one is quite informal, the other one is very formal and academic sounding, because that's what you need to show in your writing. But in your speaking, you need to show something a bit different. I can give you a moment to look at this before I show you the answers. So we're talking about writing now. Here are some idioms for speaking, first of all. Many workers go to the office even when they're under the weather, remember? People want a clean bill of health before returning to work. Older people can still be as fit as a fiddle if they exercise. So these are three sentences from spoken English, and the use of the idioms is good and would get a good mark for the vocabulary. However, when we go to the formal writing, they're gone, and we have to reformulate these sentences. So, how would you reformulate these sentences to make them more formal? So, if you should pause the video now, take a moment and try them, and then I will show you the answers. So, pause now. So, hopefully, you've written your answers. Now, there's no 100% exact answer. I will give you my possibilities. And if you wish, you can put your possibilities in the comments below and I'll check them. But here we go. Here's some formal examples for the writing task too. Many employees attend work despite feeling unwell or experiencing mild illness. So they're feeling unwell or experiencing mild illness instead of saying feeling under the weather. And this sentence is good also because it uses the joining or the linking word correctly, despite plus a verb with ing ending there. Second one, individuals often require medical clearance or confirmation of full recovery before resuming work duties. So that last part, before returning to work, becomes before resuming work duties. So that itself is a good formal reformulation of these speaking words. But before that, you instead of saying people want a clean bill of health, they say individuals often require medical clearance or confirmation of full recovery. That's getting a clean bill of health from the medical profession, for example, a doctor. So one is spoken and gets good marks for vocabulary, and to get good marks for the writing and vocabulary, you see an example there. And finally, number three, elderly individuals can maintain excellent physical health through regular exercise. Again, the last part of the original answer was if they exercise. That is changed to through regular exercise. Older people becomes elderly individuals, and then the rest of it can still be as fit as a fiddle, becomes can maintain excellent physical health. Maintain excellent physical health. So that could be the same person doing the speaking and the writing examination. And in the speaking, they know they can use these idioms and they use them correctly. And there's three of them, so that's very good. And that's on health. But they also know when they do the writing exam, and then they have to change that way of thinking and think more formal vocabulary. And then they get a good mark for both. I'll give you a challenge. You choose one of the idioms I gave you earlier, and then try to rewrite these idioms into formal writing vocabulary. So you try to use the idiom in your speaking, but then you speak the sentence, then you try to change that sentence into formal writing. All right, so today's idioms were under the weather. That's not good for writing. Clean bill of health could be okay for writing, but in general, it's very good for speaking. As fit as a fiddle, not good for writing, good for speaking. Catch a bug, good for speaking, not for writing. An apple a day, again, is better for speaking and not for writing. And I would say most, all of the ones today are best for the speaking, as usually idioms have to be very specific for the writing. So they're great for your speaking because of that natural spoken English element. So at home, you could write a short paragraph about staying healthy. At first, you could write the idioms and then you could reformulate these sentences with the idioms into formal written English. You could also record yourself answering a part two speaking prompt and then using at least two idioms from today. So look at the topic of health, think how you would answer a part two question on health, and then try to speak it using some of these idioms today and see how comfortable do you feel doing this? Because this, as I said, is natural spoken English. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this first video about idioms. So there will be more. So until then, like or subscribe below. You can have a look at my courses that are listed below, and I'll see you next time.